Welcome to our monthly Citizenship by Investment webinar. It's 7 p.m. in Hong Kong and Singapore, 6 p.m. in Thailand and 11 a.m. in the UK. Thank you for taking the time out today. I promise I will reward you with new information, important facts and valuable insights if you're considering the Portugal Golden Visa scheme. I'm Chris Land. I'm the Senior Partner at Holborn. I'm based in Hong Kong and I'll be your host for the next 45 minutes. So Portugal has been the most popular immigration program the last few years with over 10,000 applications. The program's also seen some news headlines, not all of which are positive, some stating the program will end soon. Also applications are experiencing long delays in processing. There's also rumours of the minimum investment could be increased from 280,000 to 500,000 euros. So, to unpack all of this and to make sense of it, we are honoured to have a well-known Portuguese lawyer and Vice President of the Hong Kong Portuguese Chamber of Commerce, Oscar Mandareia, with us today. He'll be joining us from Lisbon. So, what are we going to cover in the next 45 minutes? The 5 key points. First of all, introduction on myself, Holborn. Secondly, Oscar will be talking about the existing Portuguese Golden Visa framework. Then he'll discuss the range of eligible investments, and the big one, the topic of the webinar today, the outlook of the program for the future and what the rules could possibly be. And if we get time, I'll provide some insight into the last few remaining units of our current Golden Visa eligible property. I do welcome your participation, so please do send your questions in on the chat in the bottom right hand side of your screen. Write as many as you can, and if we manage to get through them all, that'll be great. I'll call your name out, or if you wish to remain anonymous, that's fine. Firstly, 60 seconds intro on myself and Holborn. You can probably tell I'm British, lived and worked in Hong Kong, also Thailand and Australia in the last 17 years. So I've had first-hand experience of the complexities and the processes of visa applications, renewals and immigration law. Having lived in Hong Kong for most of my professional life, I've witnessed the changing political situation, the June 2019 unrest and COVID-19 uncertainties. These are all a catalyst for many families deciding on where they do want to be and where they don't want to be based. At the same time, the popularity and the attractiveness of the citizenship by investment programs have increased. Holborn actually offer a wide range, not just Portugal, but Caribbean, USA, Canada, and Malta as well. But I do love seeing clients face to face. So in fact, I will be in Singapore in 2 weeks' time at the Fullerton Hotel from Tuesday the 14th to Friday the 18th of Feb. I'm holding Portuguese Golden Visa clinics with slots available every hour from 10 a.m. till 7 p.m. So if you'd like to meet, come and have a coffee with me, have a chat. It'd be great to meet face to face. We'll be sending a Calendly link out so you can make a booking directly. My background's wealth management and financial planning. My team and I have advised over 200 families in Asia and Australia over the last 16, 17 years, since 2007 in fact. And Holborn's a global wealth management company. We've got offices across Europe, Middle East and Asia, and globally we've now got 20,000 clients worldwide with about 3 billion under management. But the citizenship by investment team, that's going to be the focus today. This has expanded massively over the last few years. To the size now whereby we as a company account for about 10% of the Portuguese Golden Visa market. In our time, we're pretty proud to say we've got a 100% success rate in obtaining Golden Visas and getting clients on the program. So that brings us on to our guest, Oscar, joining us from Lisbon. Oscar, as I said, is a well-known Portuguese lawyer. We met at the Portuguese Chamber of Commerce event in Hong Kong in December. So yeah, Oscar, bringing you in here, might be worthwhile sharing 60 seconds your background, and then we can just talk about the first point.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, good morning to everyone. First of all, I need to say thank you to Holborn and to Chris for this invitation. It's an honor to me to be with this with this webinar today. So myself, I'm a lawyer, like Chris said, as simple as that. I split my professional life between Portugal and Macau, where I used to be a lawyer for 12 years almost. Then I also work for a Hong Kong based company called Melco Resorts International, which is an entertainment company holding casinos and hotels and resorts. So this is my professional background. I'm also a member of the Portugal Hong Kong Chamber of Commerce. It's established in 2019. Basically, I mean, to cope with the flux of Hong Kong people that started to come to Portugal from 2018 onwards. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thanks, Oscar. So, first point, if you could just explain the existing Portuguese Golden Visa framework, how it works, and really kind of what people get when they embark on the program.
Okay, sure. I mean, to start, I think it's important to give our audience an idea of what when the program started and what the program achieved since its establishment. So last year, October, we completed the 10th anniversary for the program. So program was established in October 2012. And since then, and basically the program was made to push and to recover the real estate market in Portugal, which was in a really bad shape, I would say, following the European crisis, financial crisis that Europe was living at that time. So from, I mean, day one to today, this program was liable to bring, or responsible to bring, 7 billion euros investment to Portugal. This program also was mainly focusing, or a people's application was mainly focusing in real estate acquisitions. So this is real estate acquisitions are responsible for 90% of the funds that were brought to the country up to date. The remaining 10% are mostly split between financial transferring through deposits or buying participation units in funds, which was close to 700 million euros. Overall, the main applicants have been people from mainland China, number one, Brazil, Turkey, USA, South Africa, and most recently, and after Brexit, also people from the UK. Last year, of course, there was a significant drop during COVID years, but last year there was around 40% increase in numbers since 2021. The curve for or at least the nationalities of people slightly changed. So US has been since last year, or for the 2022 has been the main focus of the applications, and then UK, China as well, and Brazil. Overall, and since 2020, Portugal granted approximately 11,000 visas for applications, for main applicants, and approximately 18,000 visas for family members, which is curious because this program allows people to bring their family members. So this is a kind of breakdown of the program. The program, I mean, since its incorporation, suffered some amendments, some changes on the legal framework. Basically, the country tried to adapt to the flux of people that and applicants that were considering this investment opportunity and this visa opportunity. The most significant changes has been put in place or have been enacted since January last year. So 1 year ago, more or less, since 1st January last year, there were and have impact on the choices of Portuguese Golden Visa applicants. Mostly because people, as I said, people were mostly targeting real estate investments in Portuguese major cities, right? Lisbon and the cities around Lisbon, like Cascais or Sintra or Oeiras. So these are nearby municipalities, nearby cities in the Lisbon region that have been receiving most of the investments, but also Porto, the second Portuguese city up in the north, also receiving that. There was pressure from several different stakeholders, namely some political parties, more on the left side, and they press Portuguese authorities to change the program, with the main argument that the investments that is being brought by overseas applicants has increased the prices on real estate markets. So for residential and minimize and cut the amount of offering that on real estate for locals. I don't agree at all with this argument, but anyway, this was the reason why in 2021 the government announced the change of the legal framework starting January 1, 2022 onwards. Okay, so the major differences were on the real estate investment side was that residential real estate investments in cities like Lisbon, Porto, and any coastal areas, with just a few, or most of coastal areas with a few exceptions, were not allowed anymore. So applicants cannot, from that date onwards, cannot buy residential properties, residential real estate, and qualify for Golden Visa, unfortunately. Inland country and regions and the islands, we have Azores and Madeira, they still qualify for residency purchases, but these major cities and coastal areas do not anymore. There is, of course, a chance, another possibility is still eligible in the real estate market in these main cities and coastal areas, which is properties that are, for instance, for commercial purposes or services like offices, shops, storage, garages, so car parks. All of these properties are still available in Portuguese major cities, and also in inland. The other main difference is that the minimum threshold on investment for capital transfers and also funds, so buying participation units in Portuguese funds, has also been increased. So in terms of capital transfers and so bank deposits, let's say, it was increased from 1 million euros to 1.5 million euros. And funds, it has been increased for 500,000. So buying participation in units, people and making deposits, people still need to meet the 500,000 threshold. There are other or other options, but they are not preference from the investor side, which is creation of 10 jobs, investment in arts and national heritage recovery, and also in scientific research. This is also possible, but according to I never saw any application like this one, although it's still there in the law, in the legal framework as acceptable. Chris, do you want me to go to the second point, to the what I expect to happen in the program in the future, or you want me to? Can I go further?
Well, I think just distilling your main points there. I mean, from recall, there's 7 billion euros plus gone into Portugal over the last 10 years. So, the policy has definitely worked in terms of bringing income or bringing investment into the country. And just picking up on your point, there's certain areas that are now eligible and different asset classes as well. So, whether it's a fund, whether it's commercial property, whether it's real estate. So, we can kind of, hopefully the audience have got an overview of why the policy is in force, the types of investments that you consider. But I think, the big question today that we all have, Oscar, is really, the longevity of this program, given that it's been in force for 10 years. So maybe a little bit of background on kind of, what could happen and the factors to consider would be great. I think we may have lost Oscar there. I may have to do some of the answers myself. We'll give Oscar a little bit of time for his computer to reboot. But the interesting thing is the Prime Minister, Antonio Costa, came on record in November last year. Interestingly, he was on record at a digital nomads conference in Lisbon, where they were coincidentally launching the digital nomad visa. And it was at that point he went on press, talking about the end of the Golden Visa program. And in fact, we have Oscar back now. So, Oscar, can you hear us?
Yeah, sure. I don't know what happened. I apologize. I don't know.
No problem. We were talking about Antonio Costa and his announcement last year in November, and I got up to the point whereby he said the Golden Visa will be suspended. But then I'll leave it to you to talk about the next part.
Well, yeah, that's an interesting thing, because it's been a topic, as I said, it's been a topic around for a few years already. So it's been there's a lot of pressure over Portuguese authorities and for Portuguese government to discontinue the Golden Visa program. Again, I already mentioned that there is this fake argument of the program putting pressure on the residential prices, which have been increased for the last I think 15 years plus. But this is not an accurate argument, I must say, and the numbers, they speak by themselves. The number of transactions for real estate purposes, for Golden Visa purposes, are minimum within the country's overall number of transactions or purchases for real estate acquisitions. Another thing is Portugal has been subject to consecutive crises for the last decades, and real estate business suffered a lot. And there was the real estate companies, they stopped building for more than a decade. So there is a massive shortage of offering in the market, which of course brings to this situation where if you have a lot of demand and you don't have nothing to offer, of course prices go up. But prices will go up no matter the existence or not of Golden Visa. Then there is another argument, and this one is being brought by, for instance, some European institutions, which is, concerns with anti-money laundering or with anti-money laundering in Golden Visa. Eventually, there are some arguments that some of these applicants, they use these applications to laundry their dirty funds or dirty resources, which also brings me. I mean, for me, that's been dealing with this for some years now. I don't see this argument as a reasonable argument, and I can tell you why. Because again, all funds, all the proceeds that are used to being used in Portuguese investments, they come via banking system. So you cannot bring a bag of cash to do a 500,000 purchase, or much less than that. You cannot do that. That's not feasible. People will not be eligible. Then on the top of that, we have screenings and background checks made by lawyers, made by banks, made by real estate agents, made by the Portuguese government as well. So again, this argument is always on the top of the table, but I would say that it's not. I don't see any particular relevance for this or veracity in this type of arguments. But saying that, these either nationally or at the European level, Portuguese government is being pressed to discontinue this kind of policy, of program. And yes, the changes made into 2022 were already, I would say, a consequence of this kind of pressure. And Antonio Costa, our current prime minister, has been in charge for 7 years already. He was not the one that put this program in place, but he benefited a lot with it. The country benefited a lot with it. The 7 billion I mentioned are the most, severe demonstration of that. It's funny because he according to if I can recollect, he had this comment on this possible cancellation of the program during Web Summit. Web Summit is the biggest event of that type in the world. It's organized in Portugal. It's every year. And the Web Summit company, they chose Portugal as they are Irish, if I'm not wrong, and they chose this Portuguese location because Portugal is a very friendly and environment for startups, with good facilities, with providing them very good infrastructure to set up this massive event, bringing thousands of people to the country every November. And Antonio Costa said in that particular event that government was considering the cancellation of the program exactly at the same time that he announced the digital nomad visa, for instance, which is for me is much more as a program. I'm very happy to have it, but if we compare the two programs and what they can bring to the country, the digital nomad business is much less effective in terms of financial contributions and impact in the country's economy. So it's a bit how do I say contradictory that from one side we want to keep bringing people from overseas because again this is critical. Portugal needs foreign investment. Portugal needs foreign people. We are an aging country. My white beard can confirm that. Although I'm not the best example of aging population, but we are an aging population. We need people from overseas. And we should be happy to have overseas people in the country with all their contributions, not just financial contributions, but cultural experience, all kind of contributions people coming from overseas can bring to the country. No matter the amount they invest, no matter the profession they have, I would say. But anyway, this is to say, this has been it's been said during the Web Summit in a very informal discussions with the media. But since then, there was no further developments. There was the next step, which will be the annual budget law, and the annual budget law, at least for 2023, would have to, if changes were coming, I mean this year, 2023, it will be likely to have a kind of guidance through, or at least an instruction from the annual budget law, which didn't happen. So for the time being, I don't expect changes to be enacted. But in the medium long term, eventually, and this is a very subjective comment. And this is me guessing, because I don't. This is not a legal advice. I'm not 100% sure of what I'm saying, but I can feel that with the background we have, that eventually real estate investments may be discontinued and may not continue to be eligible for golden visa purposes. This is eventually what I feel. When is this going to happen? I don't believe the change will be dramatic, will be drastic. And I can give you an example of what I'm saying. So when the legal framework changed in 2022, the government gave more or less 1 year. So from the date we started discussing and challenging the eligibility of acquisitions in real estate properties, in residential properties in Lisbon and Porto. The government announced that, but there was this moratorium of 1 year up to the moment that the law was enacted. And it's good because this brings stability to the market. This brings stability and confidence to the investors. All those who wanted to invest in residential, they had time to do it. In Lisbon and Porto, they had time to do it. So, and again, we're a small country, but we are a European Union country with a lot of political stability. If you look to the numbers and to the governments we're having for the last almost 50 years, which is the date we became a democracy, you will see that there is a very stable political situation in Portugal. So this is to say that if the changes come and when it comes, I'm sure the government will give time to people, still consider their applications, still consider if they want to move, and give them time. If the answer is yes, give them time to prepare all necessary steps to be successful with their application.
And Oscar, just picking up on your earlier point, we spoke about how much money the programme brought into Portugal versus, say, digital nomads, which perhaps would be more transitory and smaller euro amounts. I'm right in saying that Parliament voted on the continuation of the Golden Visa until the budget is set in October 2023. Is that right? Yeah.
Correct, but then the budget, that's the exact timing. You are well informed, Chris. So the discussions for the following year budget starts in October, but then the law will be effective January 1 onwards. So even if something is decided throughout October or November, people will still have some time to move forward.
Okay, and I guess from what you're seeing, if there's an ideal time to enter the program, Oscar, when would that be?
I think throughout this year will be an ideal year, moment. Of course that again, I don't believe that the program will be completely discontinued. I don't believe that, and we all know that there's a crisis, a black cloud of crisis pending in our heads of Europeans, right? No one knows how this year will be, and no one knows how critical the program will be for Portuguese for Portugal's economy this year or next year. So what I want to say is, yes, there is, I would say, there is a stream of facts, of actions that allow us to think or to consider that the program may change in future. But at the same time, we can also anticipate that probably this funds and this investment will become critical to the country if the crisis go deep, if the crisis is really effective. So again, I think that I always recommend as soon as possible, because today we know what we have, all right? And I don't. This is no way to press people. That's not the purpose. There are 19,000 pending cases for Golden Visa application, though there's a lot of work still ongoing. What I mean is, people should try to decide as soon as possible, so they can eventually got their visas as soon as possible as well.
Yeah, and I guess, as you say, the certainty over if there are any changes, it would be announced in advance. The previous changes to the geographical areas, we had what 18 months notice, I think, was it?
Yes.
So unlike other programs, say Cyprus, where all of a sudden the tap is turned off overnight, or maybe other Caribbean countries where politically things change and decisions are made very quickly. In Portugal, things take time, and that is our friend in the fact that we have time to adjust our investments, to adjust where our clients can invest and the monetary amount and the type of investment. So, but you've also kind of led on to the next point as well. But just before we cover the next point, and that's kind of time it's taken and the bad press that Portugal's had about processing applications, we'll just pause for a couple of questions just to encourage a few more questions coming through. So I'll answer one here, and I think Min has a question. Any restrictions of nationality to buy property?
No.
And if I believe that's just Russians, I think we can't take on at the moment. Is that right, Oscar?
Yeah, well, there is the answer is no. There is no restrictions. The matter with the question with Russian people is that, as you know, there is a European Union embargo over Russian Federation. But again, I wouldn't say that is an issue with the citizenship, with nationality. That's a matter involving other different topics. I'm sure if any Russian citizen decides to apply for a golden visa or to asylum, for instance, that may not. And if he explains the situation and some risks that he's suffering back home and some protection issues, Portuguese authorities will, for the asylum, political asylum, if they meet the criteria, they will get it. And with respect to golden visa, with a good argumentation, I think that we can still overtake that barrier.
Yeah, and I think we have clients from. You mentioned the top clients before. My top clients have been non-resident Indians based in Hong Kong, Singapore. We have a lot of mixed nationality marriages, so a Brit married to a Filipino, for example.
Sure.
We have Malaysians, we have Thais, we have Australians, Colombians. So we can work with all nationalities. So hopefully, Min, that gives you an answer to your question. We're just kind of racing through some of these because, as I say, there's a lot to pack in and we've not got long left. But Duke asks a question here. And the question Duke asks is, for areas that are still available for the visa program, any trends on yields for various property and asset classes? So if I may, I'll answer that one, as I deal with a lot of broad range of investments, from funds to property to hotels. And it really does, depending on the type of investment. Yields on average can be around about 3%. You can get higher. There are projects offering far higher than that. I tend to, I guess, caveat that with, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Generally speaking, the kind of market rates, 3, maybe 4%-ish. There are other investments where you can invest in a fund, for example, and the returns could be higher for a fund, but of course the minimum that you put in for a fund versus a property would be higher. So the minimum investment for a fund now is 500,000 euros, whereas you can achieve the same job with a 280,000 euro investment into a property. Funds may give you, 5-6% interest return, but typically you'd probably be invested for much longer, maybe a 7 to 10 year time horizon, as say 500k plus. But keep your questions coming in. Just before we come back to you, Oscar, Chris asks a question here. Is there a common exit strategy to the investments after 5 years? Again, I'll just touch on that. It depends on the type of investment. Broadly speaking, there's 3 types of strategy you could look at. One is do nothing, keep the investment. If it's a decent yield and it's working for you, great for retirement income and great to pay for your lifestyle if you do move to Portugal. The second one, the common one, is to sell the asset on the open market. Depending what it is, you're likely to see some appreciation, particularly serviced apartments, hotels, etc. And the third one is a developer buyback. So this would be where the investment is automatically exited, subject to the applicant applying for and obtaining their either citizenship or PR. So that would typically be from year 6 onwards. So as I say, keep your questions coming through. Oscar, so coming back to one of the other topics we kind of spoke about at the outset, we talked about long processing times. There's been a lot written online about people waiting a long time to actually have their golden visa accepted. What's the latest with that, and what are Portugal immigration, the SEF, doing about it?
That's the application timing is something that one should complain, and that's one of the issues that one can point to the Portuguese authorities. Unfortunately, of course, recent happenings didn't help the Portuguese authorities. I mean, for instance, Ukraine war and the number of applications we received throughout last year, 30,000 plus applications from Ukrainian citizens that were considered priority. Also, I mean, the pandemic also didn't help with some limitations on people accessing the CEF bureau, so the immigration office visiting several limitations with visitations, but that's not an excuse. Okay, what I mean is, yes, there is a true and effective problem with the timings to process the applications. I always say, those who ask me for this information, I always tell, don't consider less than 12 months, which is a lot. But the problem is 12 months is no longer a realistic timing, unfortunately. Because again, the pile of applications we now have, or at least we used to have by the end of last year, we used to have 19,000 applications. So main applicants and their families, we used to have 19,000 applications pending. So there's been a lot of pressure from the community. There's been a lot of pressure for lawyers, from real estate agents, from associations, the civil society has been talking about this for the last 12 months insistently. And eventually some applicants already even filed legal actions against the Portuguese government. Last week there was in the news some of these new legal actions, which basically gave them the right to be accepted for the biometrics, for instance, the booking, but there is no critical or particular effective consequence on that. What the government did recently to try to minimize this impact is that the government imposed the automatical renewal of visas. So all those visas that were either expiring or expiring soon, and I mean up to December 31st and between January 1 to March 31st this year, they were automatically renewed. And the government established also the possibility to do the renewal application online, which simplified a lot the procedure, of course. And we all hope this will help and will give more free time to the immigration department to process new applications. And we all hope there's also some government announcement that there will be some changes in the Portuguese immigration services, and that this will contribute to the speed up the procedure. Again, anything they can do, I think it will be beneficial because the situation, namely throughout last year, has been critical. So I expect the situation to improve. Honestly, I don't see it can be. I don't like to say it cannot be worse, because that's not the case. But I try to be more optimistic than that. What I mean is, it's again the pressure I told about the community is putting against the government, and the measures that the steps that being taken recently, and this is this automatic renewal has been announced, and the online renewal has been announced January 15 or 16, if I'm not wrong, so a couple of weeks ago. So what I mean, and we feel already some differences, and I saw already some of our clients' applications that moved since then. So again, I'm optimistic with these changes, and I hope we will be better by the end, by mid this year.
Yeah, and I think you've hit on a good point. The fact that the authorities have recognised the issue, it has been widely spoken about online, on the forums. They are doing something about it, and of course, hey, COVID's changed us all, right? The inability to travel, particularly China. The Chinese were the first cohort to start on this program, and of course, they've had a rough time the last 3 years of no travel. So the fact that renewals are done online, that frees up bandwidth in the system. So yeah, we at Holborn, we've also spoke to a few other people. We're confident of things improving this year. So we have our fingers crossed. We have a lot of clients currently in the pipeline. But just moving through another question here, we've got a question coming back to the earlier point about if there's any changes in the program. So would the Golden Visa, Oscar, still be valid if the rules were to change during the 5-year period?
Yeah, of course. I have no doubts. Again, this is we're a rule of law. I mean, we're a rule of law country, right? So one of the major principles of law, of new enacted law, is that they apply for future. They are not retroactive unless in very specific circumstances that do not apply to this case. So yes, even those if the law changes today, all of the existing cases and the cases are still submitted, they will be applied for the previous law at the time they submitted their applications.
Yeah. Okay. And question here: what do you get with the Golden Visa? What are the benefits? What are the bells and whistles that?
That's a very good question. That's a very good question, and I always try to be as candid as possible with my clients. So, and the people who ask for my opinion. I would say that this Golden Visa is not a pure investment product. So of course people should expect to have the best yield possible. We should look for the best, business-wise, we should look for the best solution possible. But at the end of the day, what this Golden Visa program is a residential scheme, giving people the possibility to obtain a residency in a European Union country, being able to travel freely with no restrictions in the Schengen space. which is a very significant space and within a big number of countries, as you all know. So the investment and the yield is a plus people should consider. But the main objective, at least if you want to apply for this, it should not be the financial part of this operation. The main objective is getting a residence, is being able to stay in Europe freely with with a very small amount of restrictions, okay, and with no traveling restrictions, for instance. So again, and you can live in Portugal. What I mean is the staying possibility is for Portugal, but you can freely travel within these countries with no limitations. This is the way I see this program, because people sometimes they feel frustrated with the yields in real estate, they feel frustrated with the yields given by the funds or by some products that are available in the market. For instance, the interest rates in bank deposits are really bad, but I believe that Hong Kong is not better as well. So people say, well, I will have this money, this amount of funds stopped or sit down for 5 years or 6 years, and then what I get is minimal. Well, that's not exactly like Chris, like you said. It depends on what you choose, what is your investment, but please focus on the main objective, and the main objective is getting the residence. The investment part, for me, the way I see this is secondary. Because if you want to do an investment, you can always do an investment and try to the best investment possible, and you don't apply for Golden Visa. You can still do the investment either in Portugal or in another place. I'm sure in Portugal there are other possible investments, eventually with better yields. But again, they don't bring you this opportunity of getting this visa. So if I try to be as candid as possible explaining this to people so they can focus on the main goal.
Yeah, I think that's exactly the conversations that we have with clients every week. This is a guaranteed route subject to meeting the three criteria, and ultimately that is make a qualifying investment in a Golden Visa eligible property in the right area. It's having a clean criminal record. And yeah, once you have passed the vetting, once the bank account's open, the tax number has been obtained, you make the investment, and that's your Golden Visa in the system. I think the interesting point about clients with Hong Kong dollars, with Singapore dollars at the moment, it's never been a better time to buy euros.
That's right.
The question would be where's the euro going to be in 6-7 years' time? We strongly believe it's going to be significantly higher than where it is today. So, I think there's an opportunity to make some money on the currency. But as Oscar, you say, this is a special purpose immigration vehicle. It's a way to getting on the program, getting through your 5 years of renewals, and then on the 6th year, you've got the opportunity to apply for either citizenship or residency.
Chris, let me just say something on the renewals. Sorry to interrupt you. Just to say that to show you that there's been also some commitments from the Portuguese government that try to cope with the waiting line. And I can give you an example. A few years ago, the first application was valid. The first visa, the first residency authorization was given for 1 year only, so 12 months, meaning that the person will have to come after 12 months to do their first renewal. Then it will be two years and another 2 for the 5 years. Now a few years ago already, 2 years ago, if I'm not wrong, the first visa, the first resident permit is for 2 years, for 24 months, meaning that at least during this period, you don't need to come to Portugal at the end of the first month, like together, because again, authorities understood that this was a short period of time, and they decided to give more time, allowing people to program their lives and to come less often, let's say. Sorry.
Yeah, no, exactly. We've got probably a few minutes left. We have overrun, but it's been a great webinar. We've packed some real good content into this, and we've covered a lot of questions that we get asked on a weekly basis. Min asks a question here: could you provide an address in Singapore? Not entirely sure what you mean, but we certainly deal with Singaporean clients, and I'm in Singapore the 14th of February to the 18th of Feb at the Fullerton, so more than happy to meet up for a coffee and a chat if required. We have one question here, Raja Mohan, in terms of medical insurance. So if a client, Oscar, is embarking on the Golden Visa scheme, is there a requirement to buy medical insurance?
Yes.
Okay, and that's if they're not living in Portugal, or if they're living in Singapore.
No, there's no need. No need. You need to buy medical insurance if you live in Portugal.
Right. Okay. And how does the national health system work there in terms of healthcare?
Well, the national health system is in principle is a public service. Is a free service for residents and for permanent residents and for nationals. There are, of course, a few things a few smaller amounts to pay. For non-permanent residents, there are higher amounts to pay, but there's a National Health Service is considered to be a very good service you can find in Portugal.
Yeah, I remember reading somewhere, is it the 11th best in the world? Have you come across that stat?
Well,
before?
I try to run away from those rankings, although I understand that they need to exist. But what I say is we have this the Portuguese National Health Service has this commitment. If someone is sick, this person will be treated for sure. No one will stay. What I mean is there is no such thing of someone going through an hospital to an urgency room and not be treated because there's not pain. That will not happen in Portugal. I'm 100% sure. I will put my arm in the fireplace for this.
Yeah, and I think having experience when I, as a Brit, was when we were as a country were part of the EU.
Yeah.
EU passport holders have reciprocal benefits, i.e., if an EU citizen gets sick in France, Germany, there's free healthcare throughout the whole EU. So, something I was on the receiving end after a ski incident a good few years ago. So we're coming to the end. So really, just to summarise, the title of the webinar today has been, is this the year of the end of the Golden Visa? So I think answering that, Oscar, you mentioned in your words, this would be the best year to apply. We have visibility. Anyone who is in the system or application goes in the system, if the rules change in the future, you are grandfathered in. And of course, the rules have changed previously, and that hasn't impacted clients who are in the application process or on the Golden Visa itself. I think politically, you've explained the will for the country to continue with it, the fact that it brings in far more money than, say, digital nomads would bring in. The figure of €7 billion is a pretty large figure, and of course, that has gone into real estate. And of course, that's offset, or rather not offset, it's caused some ripples amongst local residents in terms of rising house prices. But the legislation changes that Portugal put in over a year or so now of focusing on certain areas like the Algarve, commercial property, hotels, service departments, etc., have really kind of balanced that negative of pricing the locals out. Oscar, have I missed anything?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, you covered it.
I think we've covered it all. Fantastic. So any questions that we haven't got round to, apologies. We will be sending this link out, and it will be available on YouTube in a couple of days' time. Myself, James Holmes, we're available for Zoom calls throughout the week, so happy to catch up on a one-to-one. Oscar, it's been great having you on the call. We've all learned a lot, and fantastic. So I really appreciate you joining us today, and we hope to speak to you again.
Thank you so much. Thanks to the audience as well, and for putting in place this webinars. Thank you so much. Have a nice evening. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank
Thank
you
you.
all.